Hey, hey, and welcome. You're tuning in to Unbreakable Hope with me, your host, Jessica Rose. This podcast is all about seeking the light. In each episode, we chat with someone who has either overcome the darkness or who is actively spreading light within their own community. So let's jump into today's episode. I'm excited to introduce today's special guest, Mitch. Mitch is a somatic coach who has walked a lot of life. And we talk about what it is to heal. Like, what does that really mean? You don't have to be perfect to heal. Can you drink and still be healthy? Can you go to the gym too much? Are you team red pill or blue pill? So jump into today's episode with us as we talk about all things healing. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm really excited about our chat.
Same, Jessica. Thanks for having me on. My pleasure.
Well, I'm going to pass it to you, let you introduce yourself because I know you have an amazing story and we're going to be talking about some really cool stuff today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I appreciate the opportunity to share. I'm a normal dude that had some health issues and have tried to share that with my clients. And that started off as like nutrition and exercise, biohacking, detox, really trying to get to the root. And for me, that was really anxiety. I had a really bad fall when I was about 20 years old, had a traumatic brain injury, and I started having panic attacks and skin issues eventually. Had heavy metals and diabetes. I had Lyme disease and was in car accidents. And I was constantly trying to figure out, what is going on. And later, I learned about sensitization and how that's a little bit different than dealing with trauma or dealing with different root causes that functional medicine would be looking at. And it's kind of a thing that I see with a lot of men that I work with who are, they're high performers. Their families are relying on them, and when their body gets stressed, and we start getting these chronic symptoms like anxiety, gut issues, skin issues, fatigue, sleep, insomnia type stuff. As a man, we feel like we're broken, and what we do that's innate for all men is we try to fix it. We try to fix it, we figure it out, and we end up forcing healing on ourselves. And basically, that tells the nervous system there's a problem that I can't get rid of. And we get more and more sensitized to the point where a lot of guys get agoraphobic. They're not leaving the house. Their life gets really small. They're avoiding the things that they love, and they're waiting for their symptoms to get better before they re-engage with life. And at this point, we really want to treat this differently because what got us here is that pursuit of feeling better. And so we got to kind of zoom out and retrain the brain and heal the body. And what I do is I combine a top down and a bottom up approach. So we're using things like somatic tools, we're using brain retraining, we're working with beliefs, and we're teaching people how to come out of that survival mode and back into engaging with life again.
Yeah, that's huge. You brought up so many really good points to this too. And like the thought process of there's something wrong, I just want to try and fix it. And then typically we just throw anything at it, and it's things that we're more commonly exposed to. And I think the conversation, like the things that you're talking about, all these different ways to actually heal the body, we're trying to make those the more common things because those are the things that actually work long term and not just band-aid it. And which normally a big part of the band-aids, right, is alcohol and drugs. So yeah, with I myself have also experienced a TBI. So I remember like you're talking about all this different life that you went through in such a short amount of time already. And it made me think back to that where I'm like, yeah, like, golly, the things that I wish I would have known then that could have helped me heal. And I truly believe that we can retrain our brain in so many different ways. There's all this amazing research out there, but we just don't, we as a society, right? We don't talk about it enough. We don't have these conversations. So I love that we're having this conversation to try and expose more people into healing that actually helps long term. Through that, what was kind of like your initial, I guess, exposure to this? I don't really know what to call it. I want to say like actual healing, right? Not the
Mhm.
band-aid healing.
Yeah, I love that analogy of a band-aid because that's what it was. And when you're dealing with symptoms and they're chronic, and you go to the wellness industry, they've got lots of options for you, and it feels like we're being productive. It feels like, hey, I'm working on the thing that's hurting me. I'm not staying down. I'm not letting it beat me. I'm going to kick its ass, right? And that is actually what gets us into trouble. And so, um, where did mine start? I first I was into nutrition and exercise and just kind of going down the rabbit hole. And when I found the nervous system, that's when things really changed. I remember getting a mentor of mine, Irene Lyon. I worked with her for a year in a practitioner training. Prior to that, I did her Smart Body, Smart Mind program. And at that point, I was able to eat meat and salt. I was restricted down to any other food was giving me symptoms. I was exercising probably 15 minutes at a time. I'd set a timer and I'd be terrified if I went longer. And I wasn't sleeping. I had anxiety that felt like my body was on fire. And I was being real careful about what I did. I had all these different routines. I was seeing all the different practitioners and trying to get better. And two things that happened that kind of made me think like this is something that's going to be helpful for me. And number one, sitting in therapy and working with my therapist and talking about difficult things from childhood and burping. We thought that was really funny. And basically, what's going on there is I had tried every supplement, every protocol, every detox protocol in the functional medicine world to force that healing on me, and it wasn't working. It was getting worse every time. I'd take one supplement, my system would blow up. And so there's this burping. What's going on is our fascia tends to hold a lot of tension, a lot of trauma. And as I was building capacity to be with the sensations that were difficult in my body, I would burp. I would have when I had memories come up, I would do that, and we would laugh about it. But that tension was leaving the body, and I was carrying so much of it. And pretty soon I started to open up the food that I was eating, and I have no food restrictions anymore. So that was awesome. And another thing that happened was a buddy and I set a timer. We were going to bust wood for like 15 or 20 minutes or something like that in between, football games on Sunday. And the timer didn't go off. I didn't set it, and I get emotional even thinking about it now, because I wanted to work out so bad. That's such a big part of my life. And yeah, I missed the timer. Worked out for 45 minutes, and I couldn't believe it. And from there, kind of like lifting weights in the gym, I added more and titrated, did little bits at a time. And now I'm, a couple years later, I'm working out and back at the strength that I was in high school. So it's like these little signs along the way that let me know, hey, we're on the right path. Whereas before, everything was further sensitizing my nervous system.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's a huge thing when we're like just in that complete overload, all the different symptoms. I like, people say all the time, like, oh, they say, oh, it's hell getting old and, your body, this and that. I said, no, I think our bodies just become so wise and they're trying to tell us something and we haven't been listening. So they find ways to be more vocal and they find ways to be louder to get us to actually pay attention, to say, hey, there's really something going on. And I've tried to tell you this, but you're not listening. I felt that many of times, but you'd mentioned gut health, and I think that's huge. There's so many things that go into that, and that the connection between the brain and gut, and how that affects people's ability to think and do in just everyday life as well.
Oh yeah, big time. And so I want to take us back to what you just said because there's a nice little piece that we can highlight, and it's this: I haven't been listening. Um, when we have trauma, we tend to disconnect from our body, meaning it feels uncomfortable to be in our body. So we go into our head and we try to stay in our head to think our way to safety. We may not know that we're actually doing that. We think we're being productive. We're staying on top of it. We're trying to get better. But those sensations that are in our body that we're avoiding, knowing or either consciously or unconsciously, those symptoms are not the bad guy. We get taught, hey, put a band-aid on it, fix it, make it go away, take the pill. That symptoms are bad, right? Anxiety means now you get a label. If you go to the doctor and you learn, hey, I've got anxiety, you leave with a label and a prescription. And the message is that this is bad. And what I've learned over 2 decades of doing this work is that the symptom is there to heal us. It is a good thing. And healing does not happen on the outside. Nobody is going to come to save and heal you. You do that yourself. Now, we can have great mentors and coaches and teachers to empower us to take back our own health, but we need someone to guide us as well. But that happens. It all happens from inside. The information, the freedom that we're looking for comes from within. And those symptoms are literally just what you said. They're an alarm bell. They're trying to get our attention. They are suppressed emotions that weren't allowed to express, their tension that's been held for decades. And the body wants to heal and is healing. But the more that we try to fix symptoms, make them go away, avoid them, they just get louder and louder. And so, what I do with my clients is teaching people how to listen to the body again. And that starts, I got 5 different steps that I do. Number one is going to be education, understanding the nervous system and understanding the stress physiology so that you understand that what you're going through is not abnormal. It is completely normal and it's unique to you, and everybody's going through it. We feel like we're a needle in a haystack. Number two is awareness. So understanding, how do we cope with this? What are our coping strategies, our trauma responses, the roles that we've taken on? We want to map those compulsive responses to fix ourselves. And we want to take away the resistance. So quit fixing, basically. And the next is accepting and allowing sensations, letting them be here without fixing them, without figuring them out, without fearing them, fighting them, and getting frustrated about them. And then once we've done all of this, we learn how to express. We learn express the emotions that have been not allowed, that have been held in the body, and that's kind of removing trauma. And so we're working with beliefs, we're working with sensations and feelings, and what's the word I'm looking for? Emotions that are in the body. And it's just our society doesn't teach how to be with this stuff. It teaches avoid it and take something here, and we can go in an unhealthy direction. We can say, well, actually, I don't like to say to judge what I would call resources. Resources are things that allow us to feel good, to be with the uncomfortable sensations. And earlier we mentioned drugs and alcohol, right? Certainly been there, done that. I think that's an intelligent way to feel better. Society says that it's a drug problem or the alcohol problem. It's a trauma problem. We may also use exercise and perfect diets and supplements and restrictive, all these things to get to do the same thing. And we shame one or the other and we put one on a pedestal, but they're the exact same thing. And so we have to build awareness of these things and see it. A lot of times experience the contrast between the symptom and the thing that's helping or not helping, or, and ultimately do the reps so that we create a new experience, because we don't heal by forcing it on ourselves. We heal by feeling safe with the old charge and meeting it differently.
No, I love, and I'm so glad you said that too, because that's something that I've brought up in the past is that you can overuse in an unhealthy manner anything, right? There's the whole you can drink too much water and that can kill you too. That we do. We put certain things on pedestals, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're healthy. I mean, look at all of our societal changes. Every decade it seems like there's this big shift or big change, and what's the I want to say like the in thing to do, but that doesn't mean that you're doing it in a manner that is
Right for
healthy
you.
for your time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or beneficial, right? My husband always joked that drinking saved his life because how he found out his first brain tumor, he was on a deployment. They stopped off in port and they were going to be there for a couple of days. So he goes out with the guys, gets drunk, and he's in Hawaii. So like all the bars were, upstairs. And he said leaving, he slipped and then fell down a flight of stairs and hit his head. So, oh
Wow.
my gosh, so they rushed him to the hospital, scan his head. Oh, you got a softball sized brain tumor.
Wow.
So that was his big thing. He was like, you know what, drinking saved my life. I'll drink, I'll never not drink. And obviously there's a lot of like conflict with that. You got a brain tumor. Oh, you shouldn't drink at all. And like all these different lifestyles and how it's helped all these other people. But for him, he's like, I'm not going to give it up. I'm not drinking an excessive amount, right? It's like I'm drinking in an amount that is I'm enjoying, but it's also something a lot of people use, like you said, like all of this, right, is a response to trauma. We find our thing, and that's the thing that we pour everything into. But just like we've mentioned it here and there, the body keeps score, right? It's still there, no matter these things that we're putting all of our time and energy into, unless we're actually healing the body from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. I love that what your husband, his conclusion that he was going to do the thing that he enjoyed. And, I thought that healing, this is something I've learned recently. I thought that healing meant I had to be somebody different. And so a trauma response would look like I'm going to do the perfect diet. I'm going to take the perfect supplements. I'm going to do the perfect exercise. I'm going to have the perfect morning routine. And we're abandoning ourselves. We're listening to the outside. We're ultimately judging and shaming ourselves in that process and saying, hey, this thing that I like to do is bad for me. And what I've learned is that that's not the case. I feel like as I've healed, I've went back to my original factory setting. And now with different strategies and tools, I'm not people pleasing and trying to be perfect and being all or nothing and intellectualizing everything. I've learned that those were stress responses so that I could stay in connection with someone else or be seen or loved or get validated or be liked. And I told my therapist the other day, I was like, man, I think I was a lot cooler before I learned about trauma work. And so I have judged myself for things like it's 420. We're talking on Canada National
Yeah.
Smoke Weed Day or whatever, and I thought maybe weed was the problem. I've smoked weed since I was probably 20 years old, and it's something I enjoy, like a glass of wine at the end of the day. And I thought, man, is the weed was causing me to be fatigued, or is the beer what's causing to mess up my stomach? And it's like, no, dude, if I didn't have the symptoms, I'd do them as well. If I had the best day, then I'm going to do them. I'm not going to use them to cover up the way that I feel. I'm going to use them to enhance the moment, to connect with other people, to have a good time, to relax. Not forcing myself to sleep with it or forcing myself not to feel what's present in the moment, whether that's grief or anger, or whatever. So there's a different relationship that I have to it. But so much of this work is just be you, man, and be authentic and express yourself in the way that feels good to you, and that is healing.
Yeah, and I love what you said where we have the image of what healing and healthy looks like. So changing everything, you said to have the perfect routine and have the perfect diet and all these kind of things. And I know someone personally that went through this, and their healing journey is that, oh, well, this is what's wrong with me. Therefore, I'm going to do all these things because that's what other people did and that's what worked for other people. But then it became a like an obsessive habit.
Yeah,
Like
oh yeah,
I
it's
if I miss,
OCD.
yeah, I miss one thing, then it's all out of the water, right? And like everything is wrong, uh and then you're just adding to the anxiety and the stress you're already experiencing from this life event that has had you want to change in the first place. So I as you said that, I was like, man, like I can totally connect with that, is because sometimes I think that's where a lot of people go is I have to change everything. And one of my favorite movie lines, I think I just quoted this in my last podcast episode too, Breakfast at Tiffany's, where he says, you can run all you want, but you'll just keep running into yourself.
Hell yeah.
So if you're not,
Everywhere I go, there I am.
yeah, yeah, like if you're not putting in the work into yourself internally, it doesn't matter. Everything else, it's still you.
Well, you say that too, and you're so dead on it because when that's a big part of what we do in my awareness phase. That's what we're doing is we're meeting ourselves. And the way you do one thing, when you see this pattern, one thing it kind of takes the charge away from it because you'll see the cycle that you're taking yourself through and you're stuck. But ultimately, it's OCD and it's a compulsive um, impulse to change and fix yourself with a belief that I'm not good enough or I'm bad or something's wrong with me and I got to fix it. And ultimately, it sounds great, on paper for our society, and then like your friend, you get chewed up, and like myself, you get chewed up and spit out by the wellness industry, and you learn that all that stuff's bullshit. And ultimately, can I give myself permission to be me and do the things that I love and meet the day like it's a vacation? Like what do I want to do today? Whether that's for 15 minutes or for the entire day. It's a process of loving yourself and being authentic and being compassionate with the part of you that's hurt, and then just keep showing up for yourself and keep doing what you love to do.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. The finding you had said something along those lines, like finding who we are, like meeting ourselves. And I think that's something we take for granted a lot, is knowing what brings us happiness. It's something I see in a lot of relationships, right? Another, I'm quoting my husband a lot today, is he would always say, compromise means nobody gets what they want.
Yeah.
So in a lot of relationships that I see, is I'm so grateful my husband and I, we got together based on our values and our interests. So that way we had these core beliefs that we shared, and we respected and honored the fact that each of us still needed to be an individual. We needed to
Yeah.
have our own individual hobbies, our own individual friends. So it wasn't like our entire world revolved around each other. Obviously, being his caregiver the last 6 years really changed how much he had to rely on me and how much I had to be there for him. But I think that's what really helped us to get through so much. And we don't we don't really honor that with our partners, but I think a lot of it comes to we don't honor it with ourselves, is
Oh
allowing
yeah.
ourselves to be
Oh yeah.
happy.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of how it plays out. So if you maybe you'll notice one before the other. So you may go like, "Oh man, I'm not honoring myself, and I'm not honoring myself in the relationship, in the job, in the family, in the friendship, and all the things." It's like, damn, everywhere I go, here I am. And that's what healing is an opportunity to meet those patterns and do things differently. But some of us, so many of us, are just asleep at the wheel, understandably. We're unconscious, we're unaware, and that's what healing is, just bringing awareness to these patterns and getting clear on where we want to go and loving ourselves there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Now,
think
there's a whole lot of other stuff, all the wounding and all of that. But I mean, if we just boil it down and make it simple, which I like to do, I mean, it's that. It's love yourself, be authentic, and give yourself permission to do that every day.
yeah, I love that. It's just stating it in the simplicity, not saying that it's easy, but saying that is how simple it should be. It takes
Hmm.
work to get there, but then once you have these opportunities and once you put in the work to get to that place, you really realize like, huh, like this is it. This this
Hmm.
is the good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you had talked about earlier that you work with people, you have these kind of 5 steps, 5 stages that you work with. I'd love to give you an opportunity to share a little bit more like of that, and tell people how they can get services with you so you can help them through this journey of like chaotic life that we live, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I like to do one-on-one coaching because I really believe that everybody's different, and what one person is going to need versus someone else can be greatly different. So I like to do one-on-one. Um, and so much of that is just building rapport, getting to know each other, understanding what's going on, what got us here, where are we trying to go. And it's funny, in this work, you tend to attract people that are just like you. And I have to really work on my poker face when I'm working with clients, because I tend to laugh at it, and I'm not laughing at the individual in front of me. I'm laughing at how scarily similar we are. And so the people that I work with, they're high performers, they're professional athletes, they're special forces guys, and gals. They're entrepreneurs, they're caregivers, they're people that have been through really serious health issues, and their body is not broken. It's actually responding very intelligently to the stressful situations that we've been in. But society does not teach us how to meet this stuff. It teaches us that it's bad, and so there's shame involved in it, and we think something's wrong with us, and we go on this quest to learn and to improve. I hate this fucking word, optimize. It's like what I was so obsessed with in the biohacking world. And I'm not over here, shitting all over wellness. I think these things are good. Yeah, learn how to eat healthy food, move your body in a way that feels good for you, exercise, challenge yourself, be the best that you can be. But what is the intention and the message behind that? Everything in the healing world is relationship and how are we relating to ourselves. And trauma is disconnecting and avoiding and suppressing. And more a healthy way is accepting and allowing and being compassionate and meeting ourselves with love and giving ourselves permission to be messy and knowing that we don't have to take on these survival roles like people pleasing and perfectionism, but we don't know that we're even in that. We will tell you, I'm a people pleaser, I'm perfect, this is how people love me, and that is true. And so this is very much a red pill, blue pill, kind of moment. The people that come to me have usually tried everything to fix themselves. They're exhausted. They got crazy symptoms. I would say my body and hair felt like I was on fire with anxiety, and then I couldn't sleep at night and had no energy and kind of flip flopping between those and all the chronic symptoms that would change every time I tried to change it. And so when we're ready to do this work, like I said, it's education, it's awareness, it's building capacity, kind of like lifting weights in the gym. It's accepting and allowing. It's the opposite of fixing and forcing. And then it's learning to express and just be authentically ourselves. But we may have a treasure chest of active how do I say this? Um, of holding tension in the body, of unprocessed emotions. A lot of people will have a bunch of grief, a bunch of anger, because we were told at some point that wasn't allowed. And so through this education and mapping our experiences and how we tend to cope with what we're feeling and accepting and allowing what's here and expressing what's stuck in the body, it is absolutely insane to see the change that is possible as people, especially someone who's been a health coach for about, I don't know, 6, 7, I think it's maybe 10 years now, actually. Um, so much more can happen when we meet ourselves where we're at, when we express what's stuck in the body instead of trying to eat the right kind of foods or trying to, detox ourselves. I mean, I was the guy that was doing 7, 8 day, 10 day water fast and not eating until lunchtime every day and, crushing myself in the gym and wondering why I'm still staring asleep at the ceiling at nighttime. And everybody, the wellness industry is going to applaud you. It's going to make you feel like you're doing it right. You're perfect. Maybe you even feel like you're better than everybody else because you're doing it all right. And then you see this is the pattern that keeps us stuck. And so, but once we can recognize that, it's amazing the progress we can make when we're meeting ourselves, when we're expressing ourselves authentically, when we put down the compulsive need to fix ourselves. And so, if this sounds like you or anybody that's listening, my website is I'm easy to find. Again, I offer one-on-one coaching. You can find me at mitchwebb.com. I have my own podcast. It's on YouTube. It's called Rooted Conversations. I share those clips on all social media podcasts or social media platforms. So I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I've got a free quiz for the listeners if they want to see what's going on with their nervous system, what's their primary nervous system state. So, what's the state that they're spending the majority of the time in the last couple of weeks? And then how to work with that. There's some free resources, and there's several links on the website in the quiz. And in my links in my social media to reach out to do a free 30-minute consultation. I believe we're going to keep that in the show notes as well. So if this sounds like you and you feel like your body's broken and you tried everything, I'm your dude.
I love that. A lot of ways to be able to connect and get some really useful information and some action steps to move forward. I love that you had brought up that because wellness is not the fix all. Like, sure, healthy food is good, sure, movement is good, but there's a lot more that we could be doing for ourselves rather than fighting against our inner bodies. I think is like kind of where I think it was like your inner core. If you're not working on that, you're not working on your mindset, then you're just going to constantly be fighting that rather than dealing with the root cause. And that was something, you talked about your TBI. That was something I struggled with my TBI was like I was just trying to find anything that would help and grasping at anything. I didn't actually get initial treatment. Kind of a, long story. I don't want to completely derail there, but it was about 10 years after my TBI when I actually got into the TBI clinic at the VA to try and get treatment. And by that point, the docs were like, we're gonna like look at how good you're doing. And I always thought, yeah, but do you know how good I was doing beforehand? Taking that huge hit and everyone being like, oh, there's nothing we can really do now. It's been 10 years. And I thought,
Yeah.
there's still some
Same,
things that
same
we
here.
could
I
do.
didn't tell anybody about mine either, so I get that.
Oh man. Yeah. And it's hard, like just like you're just swimming, just trying to like get through the day. But having your expertise and everything that you've gone through and all the things that you've learned and being that person that had a lot of experience in the health and wellness field before then having this experience and this level of being able to help process and grow. I think it's so important being able to bring it all together and then saying like, hey, here's where healing really happens. You can still be happy. You can still have a beer, right? You can still smoke. It's funny you said that. I was like, I didn't even realize, yeah, it's 420. But I'm
Oh, I
I'm,
remember. Don't worry.
I'm allergic. So
Oh, really?
there's a fun fact. So
Yeah.
yeah, made for a great human drug dog situation. But you had also brought up how like society doesn't teach us to handle these things. And I think of that a lot when it comes to how much our society has changed. And I think of like our youth in schools and what they're learning, but the critical things that they're not learning, right? Stuff like this, we talk about like emotional intelligence, like that's not being taught at home or in schools, just because I think our society has changed so much. It's I don't know if I would say it's like it's not a priority. Maybe it's something that we can't test, therefore we can't charge. Therefore we
Well. Think about it. Like society, whoever is running society, that's a whole nother rabbit hole.
okay.
But the powers that be, the puppet masters, they want you stressed, poisoned, distracted, overstimulated. It's and separate from your people. And that's what we've done a really elegant job of doing that with social media, with the news, with the food supply, with the water supply, with the pharmaceutical industry, with entertainment. And it's like, avoid this thing and stay stuck in survival mode. Society is geared to keep you in a state of fight or flight and survival. And when you're doing that, your prefrontal cortex is knocked off. You don't have creativity, and only a priority that you have in your body is to survive. And so, your nervous system is connected to every system of the body: digestion, hormones, circulation, sleep, relaxation. I mean, you name it. So that's a really nice design. They've done an incredible job. And so, what we have to do this day and age is to see that, to take the red pill, and to slowly wake up to the things that are sabotaging who we are. And when we come out of survival mode, those things don't have the same allure. Yes, you get to have your beer and your joint at the end of the day, or whatever it is that makes you you, but you don't have to be in the matrix, and you can come out of survival. And that's what we're talking about here.
Mm. Yeah, I mean that's 100% all those good points, like how everything adds up and leads to that. I, I think of another example of when it comes to people who are low income housing, right? There's the Section 8 housing, or there's whatever supportive systems or services that they have. But the moment they make like a dollar over the amount, so let's say somebody working hard, right? But they're not making enough money. So they're getting some supplements from state or federal, right? And they finally get a raise. But that raise isn't enough to make up the amount of loss that they have. There's no transition period. So it's almost like we're building this perfect environment to keep people down. Like
Absolutely.
you keep people stressed out. Like, that was a really good point with all of these different things going on in our society.
And this work that we're talking about, because I've been through it these last couple years, it's the ultimate red pill. It's a lot. It's a lot to see all at once. I'm so thankful for this work and the times that we're living in, because I went through this a couple years ago, and it's a lot. That's why we want to kind of do little bits of this work. We don't want to jump into the deep end of the swimming pool all at once. That's going back into our old pattern of fixing and forcing, the awareness. And so it's one step at a time, doing a little bit, taking time to rest, coming back when we're ready, and just continuing to peel back that onion.
Mm. Yeah. Little bits by little bits, and the willingness and courage, I think, to be able to jump in. Sometimes I think we build it up as almost it's going to be this, not saying it's not hard, but I think we just the anxiety and the stress builds it up that it's going to be this big mountain or this big monster that we're going to have to accomplish. So it's almost too scary to even bother with. But really, once you kind of commit and jump in, it's not as scary as I think our brains make it out to be initially, and that we're able to jump in and tackle it. But it's even better to be able to jump in and tackle it when you have someone like yourself being able to help guide you along the way to make sure that you have these steps and you have these support. And I think a lot of people don't understand the amazing value of having a coach and having somebody guide you and walk you through, because life is tough. No matter what we go through, we've all gone through heavy aspects in life.
Yeah, and I want to tag on to that because it's something I hear so often. Yeah, life is tough. This stuff is scary. It's a lot. And that will keep so many people on the sidelines from jumping in because they think it's going to be all or nothing, or it's going to be this thing. It's going to be this overwhelming thing. And think about this girl that I met this weekend. We went to her father had passed away. And she was telling me, "Hey, I need to do some work with you, and I am not doing emotions. I'm not doing emotions. I want to do food." And I said, "Hey, we take the door that's open. I don't force anything on anybody. So if you tell me no emotions, then we don't do emotions. I take the door that's open. There's beliefs. There's the words that we speak. There's sensation in the body. There's emotion. There's food and exercise. Those things are really important. We want to be able to support the body and have the energy to do this work. And our body knows we do not have to go chasing trauma. That is not a good way to go about this. We meet whatever is here in this moment. And as long as you can continuously show up for yourself and work with someone who understands, how the gravity of this work, we're going to pendulate. We're going to go into what feels uncomfortable. We're going to resource. We're going to go into what feels good. We're going to do little bits at a time, and we're going to work with whatever's here. We're not going to step outside of our capacity, blow our system up. That's another thing that happens with a lot of people is they do too much too fast. Very common theme in the work, and they get their butts kicked. And that was me. Because I was sensitized, I was treating this like dysregulation. I was learning a lot about the nervous system, and I understand it. Oh, I got these traumas and I want to go after them. But when I did that, it kicked my ass. And really, if we can heal the sensitization, maybe we don't even need to worry about the traumas. And so that's why it's such an individual situation. We want to work with someone who's been there. And my advice to the listeners is find someone that you resonate, that's been in the places and spaces that you have, and work with them.
I love that you're really meeting people where they are. Is
Mhm.
okay, you don't want to work on this, well, let's work on these other things. There's still so much out there to be able to work on and benefit and positively impact a life. And having that one-to-one approach is just, it's so good. You said earlier too, one thing isn't going to work for everybody. So that's just another great example of, all right, what works for this one person, and also in that moment of your life, right? Throughout the multiple levels of healing, I say, like, for me, I had to go through all these different grief cycles. I got the honor of grieving my husband while he was still alive, but I still had to like go through it. So what worked for me year one didn't work for me in year three. I had to change what I was working on and what I was doing to help guide through those places in life. And I think that's something too that sometimes people get discouraged. Like you said, it's like this big scary thing. But I think a lot of people get discouraged. I've heard many of times, I'm sure you have too, it's like, oh, I tried therapy once. I'm like, okay, maybe it was the person. Maybe you didn't have a good connection with the person. Maybe it was the technique they were using. But if you tried therapy once, it doesn't mean that all therapy is bad, you know?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's unfortunately there's so much BS that goes around the wellness industry. There's people that are only using one modality. And so if you come in, you know, you bring a knife fight to a gunfight, you're underprepared. You bring the atomic bomb to the knife fight. You're overprepared, and if you don't have if you haven't been in these places yourself, there's psychologists that can right medications that haven't been on the couch and done the work themselves, and how can they meet the person in front of them at the depths that's required for them to heal? Then they're just performing, and they're doing a big disservice. People that all they want to do is talk, DBT, CBT, revisiting traumas. That's re-traumatizing the person in front of them, and then trying to do um, tactics like trauma healing modalities to regulate when a person is sensitized will only reinforce that pattern. And so I'm not over here by any means saying I have all the answers for every person, but I do have the answers for the people that have been in the places that I have, the sensitized person, the person with chronic anxiety and symptoms that they've tried everything and nothing seems to work. That's my wheelhouse. And I have different tools for the job, and I'm constantly learning. But if somebody gets missed because of their survival pattern, someone who's an intellectualizer who really can tell you everything that's going on with them, all their patterns and sensations, but they don't know how to connect with their body, they're going to get told that you don't need to be here. You're doing great. You're so self-aware, but they just got missed because they don't understand intellectualization as a trauma response. And I constantly find new rabbit holes of how to understand myself and other people. And, those are some of the reasons why or therapy can get a bad rap, is because people are just not aware.
Yeah, there's so much benefit to lived experience. I know, again, like me personally, working with a therapist that didn't have a a grief and a loss that connected with where I was, and then being able to work with some therapists who had experienced severe grief and loss, and just even sometimes it'd be like one day, one sentence was almost life changing in that moment. It's like, oh, like this person gets it, like they
Yeah.
understand. And I think that's something that validation of like, okay, I'm working with someone who's been there, who can actually help me move forward is is huge. It's huge. It's priceless. You could go to school for years and study something, but like you said, not have the actual experience, not being on the other side of the couch, not understanding what that's like. And I think that's something that I love about being able to work with coaches, is that there's a lot of people who have this lived experience that they're able to offer that's greater than a degree. Again, not saying therapists are bad, right? There's
Yeah.
all kinds of kinds. But I think exactly what you're saying is like find somebody who's been where you're at, because they're going to have so much benefit to being able to come from a place of, this is what helped me along this journey, and these are the things I'm still learning to help other people along their journey too. Um,
Yeah.
I think this is
Amen.
such a great, important conversation that we could talk all day about. I definitely want to give you an opportunity if there's something that we missed. Obviously, we'll have the links below for people to be able to connect with and engage with you. And I'd love to give you an opportunity if, like I said, there's something we missed, or if you have some final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think my final thought would be, your body's not broken. Um, and I needed to hear that over and over again through this work. Um, if you see yourself in this picture of trying to do everything and nothing seems to work, that's the problem. And that's a pattern that we learn early on. Um, and this compulsive fixing, when we put that down, so much is possible. And so if you hear yourself in this discussion today, start today, start now. There's so many good books out there, podcast, find a coach, find a therapist, find a book that resonates with you, and so much healing is possible, and so much freedom is on the other side of these chronic symptoms that I know are so tough to deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. There's so much, like I say, flavors of ice cream. You know, that's why
There's a
there's
million ways to get up the mountain. You just got to find yours and need a guide.
yeah, I love it. I love it. Oh, like I said, I know I feel like we could talk all day. We're both talkers. And I'm a talkaholic, but I appreciate you coming on and sharing some of your insights and your experience that you've had, and just giving us your time and your energy. And I can't wait to stay connected.
Absolutely. Same here. And thanks for having me on. It's been great chatting with you, Jessica.
Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. If you found this episode inspiring, please share it with someone you never know who needs more light in their life. May this serve as a reminder that there's always darkness in the world. Do not let it consume you. Always seek the light. Please take a moment to do the good old subscribe, rate, and review. Your support means so much to me, and it helps me spread more light and love. Until next time, be kind, be loving, be human, and don't ever let anyone steal your hope.